There are actual football games to talk about.
I know it.
Don't have to talk about realignment. Don't have to talk about anything. We get to talk about games. How about that?
It's the best thing. It's the best medicine for conference realignment crap that continues to go on.
Oh my gosh.
How long can we talk about Cal and Stanford?
Yeah, let's I do not care where Cal and Stanford are going to end up. I'll just be completely honest. I do care about how good Notre Dame looked though.
Yep.
A 42-3 drubbing and only 3 for one of the saddest sad field goals you'll ever see from Navy with like 3 minutes to go. But okay, two things can be true here. Navy isn't a very good football team, and Notre Dame looked really, really solid, especially offensively. Right? I think both are true. I mean, what a debut for Hartman. 19 and 23, 251, 4 touchdowns. There were a lot of questions about how the transition for him would go from that unique Wake Forest offense to running a more pro style approach at Notre Dame. Ted, he looked fantastic. Offense scored on their first 5 drives. I mean, Navy's defensive line did not have a chance against that Notre Dame offensive line. They ran it really well with Estime and Price. Harmon orchestrated, fantastic 2-minute drive before the half. Like it was all positive for the Irish. I mean, they look really good.
Yeah. And you're right. And I think your point is very important because one of the things that we do in college football that we don't do in NFL football, I guess it does happen in NFL to some degree, but we punish a team for playing really good against someone by saying, well, it's Navy, right? Of course, you're supposed to do that against Navy. But, I think you really got to credit the way Notre Dame came out, looked really solid on both sides of the ball, played super efficient, could have kept going if they wanted to, as efficient as they were playing. And, I think everything looks like a success so far. Whenever you got the new quarterback into your system, everyone was curious to see how it looks. Come away looking pretty clean in game 1. So you got to be happy with it if you're Notre Dame.
Yeah, and you think about, I mean, the circumstances aren't exactly ideal for Notre Dame in that game.
Right.
You're playing the damn game in Dublin, right? You're a massive favorite. I mean, there's a recipe there to come out flat, and they just didn't do that at all. They punched Navy straight in the face, and that game was over quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we all know how those players for the Naval Academy are wired, right? Those are some tough dudes, man. And Notre Dame's O-line and Notre Dame's defensive line absolutely punked those guys. That's the only way to say it. I mean, they absolutely controlled the football game. And, that's impressive. I don't care how much more talented they are to go into a game against an academy and push them around the way that they did. I was impressed. And now clearly not the debut Brian Newberry was looking for as Navy's head coach. But all of a sudden you look at Notre Dame, they haven't had a guy like of Hartman's caliber in quite some time. Man, I don't know. I start looking at that Notre Dame schedule and maybe start viewing that team a little differently.
That's true. It's true. Yeah, they've got a good schedule in a sense that it's got the right names on it to where it's not going to be held against you, right? Where you make it through. You've got enough big names in there, and we'll see with them. And if they continue to get that type of quarterback play from Hartman, that efficient, 19 of 23 for 251 and 4 touchdowns, I don't expect it to look like that every week, but it looks like he's benefiting from having, some good pieces around him and a good solid offensive line. So it's interesting. We'll see.
It's definitely interesting because he looked completely in control of that offense.
Yep.
And you look at the schedule, a couple weeks now, they got to go to NC State. That's not exactly a layup. They play Ohio State and USC at home. Now they got to go to Clemson, but you've got some serious, marquee games there for Notre Dame. And now you start to wonder, hey, is Sam Hartman the type of guy that can lead them to, an 11-1 season?
Yeah.
Something like that. I think it's unrealistic to expect him to run the table, especially when you talk about Ohio State, USC, and Clemson. But I mean, with what we saw from USC's defense, and I know we'll break down that game, but I think Notre Dame's offense could push them around a little bit, score a bunch of points. Like I could see them beating them, especially with that game being in South Bend. Like there's a path to them being an 11-1 football team and going to the college football playoff, and Sam Hartman being in the Heisman Trophy conversation. Like that feels much more attainable after what we just saw. Now, got to have some injury luck. Like some things got to go your way. There's no doubt about it, but maybe I'm just overreacting to what we saw, but I was really impressed.
There is a lot of that where, okay, it's one game. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but to forecast it out, here's the thing you got to remember. Ohio State's replacing a quarterback too. Now, they've got a good history of replacing quarterbacks, right? And next guy up there has been pretty impressive. So, but it's still a fact that they have to replace quarterback, and sometimes you never know. Clemson has to replace a quarterback. I know Klubnik got a little bit of play last season, not a lot, but it's still a fact that you just don't know necessarily on where Clemson's quarterback situation is going to be. And USC, the question remains about how good are they going to be defensively. So, yeah, none of those games do you say that Notre Dame has no chance of winning them. So,
yeah,
I would actually favor them against USC and Clemson today with what I know, because I know more about Notre Dame than I do those schools at the moment.
Yeah. Now you're expecting Ohio State to be a much more talented team, right? That's kind of where they're at. But I did not think Notre Dame was going to be in a playoff conversation really at any point this season. And after seeing that, I was like, okay, it's not the craziest thing in the world. Now, last thing on this game, I think we can all agree that Sam Hartman it's a good looking dude, man. Beard, hair, he looks like he was made in a lab to be Notre Dame's quarterback. Okay.
Yep.
But how do we feel about the rib necklace? Like he had the rib surgery. His mom had the necklace made. I feel like that's only something someone that attractive can get away with, because that's weird, right? It's weird that he's wearing a necklace with his surgically removed rib on it. That's strange. Like you only get away with that being as attractive as he is.
Yeah. You think it's he feels like he has to?
Oh yeah.
How do you think his feeling of it is?
Thanks, Mom.
Oh, cool.
This is awesome. I love being reminded of this painful stretch of my life all the time now. They were doing the little special, like, oh, how thoughtful of his mom. I was like, that's weird, man. That's strange. Could you imagine your mom giving you that? It'd be like, okay, I love you, Mom. Because you got to wear it, right? You got to wear it.
Have to. It could be one of those things where it looks so good that I don't want to have the chance of breaking it or losing it. So I'm going to keep it right here in this safe place instead of wearing it.
Yeah. I'm going to display it at my house.
That's right.
I don't want it to get broken, but yeah, that was one of those things where the whole thing, I was like, you got to be really good looking to pull that off. And Mom, what are we doing? What are we doing? But hey, the power of the rib necklace, right? He can't change it now after the way he just played. Like you got to ride it out.
Yep. That's right.
Strange. All right. USC gets a win. 56-28 over San Jose State. This just in, Caleb Williams still very good at football. Now, O-line, I'm not going to lie, was a little leakier than I thought it was going to be, especially in the first half. But I would anticipate them getting some of that ironed out. The couple of young guys, right, started a true freshman at guard. But Man, between Caleb Williams and the playmakers they have at wide receiver and at running back, this just in, that offense is going to be fun to watch. But that's not the question, right? That's never been the question when it comes to a Lincoln Riley team. The question coming into this season was clearly, what's Alex Grinch's defense going to look like? And I don't think anyone came away from that game feeling any better about USC's defense. Is that fair to say, Ted?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I don't know if that is. So I saw someone have the take that it's clear that Lincoln Riley cannot put together a good defense. It happened at Oklahoma. It's happening at USC. I don't know that is. I know that track record is there, but I don't know that you can conclude that on this season from one game right out of the gate. I don't think you can necessarily do that, because you have to remember, one of the things that they've done is kind of decide that we're going to live in the transfer portal quite a bit. So they've got a lot of portal additions. That means that guys are still coming online with the system and with the scheme. And so you got to give it a little bit more time, but it's not a good start. And part of the problem for Lincoln Riley is, whether it's fair or not, perception is reality. And that's not an uncommon take. You'll see that all over the place, and recruits see that and hear that too, right? And that hurts you in recruiting on the defensive side, because they put an emphasis there. They dedicate resources there to recruiting that side of the ball. It's just difficult to get over that block that you have out there for the perception that you just don't dedicate any time or resources or attention to the defensive side of the ball. And it's got to be extremely frustrating for them. We'll see how the rest of this season. This is going to be Grinch's last opportunity, I feel, with Lincoln Riley. He won't have a choice but to move on if this year doesn't show improvement.
Yeah, and I watched the entire game. Their defensive front looks better. I mean, physically. Mm-hmm. I thought Bear Alexander, that you go look at the box score, and if you didn't watch the game, you're like, what, he had no production. He was really disruptive. I thought he showed a lot of suddenness. Like, he was in the backfield a lot. Anthony Lucas, the guy on the edge for them, number 6, he's about the only guy I've seen that can match the physical traits of PJ.
Yeah.
But he looks like a mutant out there with the length of his arms, like that size. Like that, he looks like he can be a guy. That defensive front, they look better physically. The question becomes for me is, will Grinch recognize that and play some straight defense more, man? It's like the 3rd and 22 is a perfect example. You've got all these new fancy transfer toys across the defensive line. It's 3rd and 22. You're going double mug, like triple twists, trying to spy with Mason Cobb. He gets lost in the wash. Cordero runs for a first down. It's 3rd and 22, man. You got these guys. Rush 4 and play coverage. Let those guys rush the passer.
Yep.
Like, I feel like some of the over aggressiveness, like, they have to realize at some point that they have to let these players that they have acquired go make plays instead of doing all the slanting and angling. It's like, and you and I don't think we kept it a secret. We were not a huge fan of that philosophy when he was at OU, despite how much we loved Grinch. It's just, will they get to the point? And they did it some in the game. Like, they just rushed 4 and they had success doing it. Like, will he realize, hey, we can just do this more and not have to play as much zero and just some of this overly aggressive stuff that I don't think they have to do.
Yeah. I've said it a million times.
Correct.
I hate the spy. I hate it. especially on 3rd and 22. You don't need a spy. Just play cover 2. You don't need a spy. You got 5 underneath guys, right? I'd rather have 5 underneath guys, zone players, come up and rally and make the tackle on the quarterback than run spy and everyone's got their back to the football and leave it up to one guy to make the play that may get bumped off or knocked off, choose the wrong hole to add to. There's some times where it makes some sense, but it's like defensive coordinators at times use it as a justification to do whatever they want to on the back end. Well, the spy handles the quarterback. We'll do whatever we want back here and play man to man. Whenever you don't need that, there's no reason to put that pressure on one player when you just spread the net underneath and be able to absorb that with a bunch of different players. But I don't know. Let's continue to watch quarterbacks scramble for first downs because the spy player couldn't make the play because he has the entire field to defend against one guy who's, if you're spying, it means he's a good athlete.
Yeah.
Stupid as hell.
No, I was impressed with Cordero for San Jose State. Right? Guy's a solid player. What that touchdown catch that Nick Nash had, that was a sweet play. Like San Jose State made some plays, right? And their offensive line was way more physical, right, than I was anticipating. I'm not going to pretend like I knew a lot about that group coming into the game. That group battled, man. They battled. They played well together. Like San Jose State, it's going to be interesting to see if they can make any noise. But yeah, I just think that defense for SC, it's going to be one of the most heavily scrutinized units in all of college football, right? Every single time they step on the field, everyone's going to be focusing on that. I mean, that's just so. Will Grinch in that group, will we see some improvement from him, right? And I think they determine ultimately that team's fate, right? When it comes to how it's going to look for them in the Pac-12 race and any possibility of a college football playoff or anything like that. It's going to be determined by that defense. And like we mentioned, no, I don't think anyone came away from this game going, oh, no. I feel much better about SC's defense.
Yeah. And it's going to be difficult for them because they have a very unique schedule where they play 3 non-conference games, then have a bye week, and then they rip off 9 straight after playing in week 0. Their regular season is done, the 18th of November, which is weird that they didn't build a extra bye week in there somewhere for them to where they end with the rest of college football. Like their next idle is going to be the last week before the conference championship games. It's a really weird schedule.
The Pac-12 has never been known to do its best teams any favors.
No kidding.
When it comes to their scheduling. Now, one last thing from that game. I know there was a lot of people were focusing on the defense. A lot of people were focusing on Caleb Williams. And, it is interesting that when a mistake turns into like your highlight play of the game, right? Dude just fumbles the ball and then chucks it for a 76 whatever yard touchdown.
I wonder if he does that on purpose, because how many times have we seen him fumble the snap and then pick it up and then make a touchdown play? Did it against Texas.
Just 4D chess from Caleb
Right.
Williams. But I think everyone that watched that game came away going, Zachariah Branch is going to be an absolute star in college football. A lot of hype coming in, right? 5-star, the whole thing. Ton of hype. Maybe wasn't enough. He was putting off serious Reggie Bush vibes. Let's just be real. The return, like the little hurdle, like the stop and start. He is looking like one of these guys that's going to be must-see TV for the next 3 years.
Yep.
Boy, he was fun to watch. Whew.
Yep. That.
And I know it's San Jose State.
Right.
I know he's not playing against elite players, but still, when you see it, and that kid's got it.
Right. There's no doubt. And it's just, it's interesting that it feels like the narrative has turned though, because whenever you say that in a conversation to someone, and I'm not talking about saying it to another Oklahoma fan because that just doesn't count. But if you say that to a national person, you're going to hear, yeah, but of course he's always got great skill guys, but when is there going to be one of those guys on defense? He's fighting that narrative big time right now. And this season for USC is going to be, it's a big one for perception.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And we'll see if, I just think if Grinch can let some of those guys on that front just go be athletes and make plays. Like, I really like the Jamil Muhammad guy. That guy was flying around. Bear Alexander looked good. Anthony Lucas has one of the best physical profiles you'll find of any edge player in the country. Let those guys be guys, man.
And remember that they also started a true freshman at Mike linebacker, which
your football crush.
How
do you look?
I mean, he looked like a freshman, but that's what you expect. It's not. We're going to start a sophomore at Mike linebacker, and I expect him to look inexperienced out there and be lost at times, right? So imagine that as a freshman. So he's a guy that you expect to get better and better as the season moves on. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.